Evening to our special episode that we meet on every Sunday evening, Dressing Room Ki Baatein. Today is episode number 17, and today when we had the national anthem, today gives us another reason to celebrate our national anthem, because today is the Kargil Vijay Divas, the definition of true bravery displayed by the Indian soldiers. Similarly, that we have had all these Sundays coming in. Even today, we've got another international cricketer who has represented India with pride, and we'll now get to learn and to get to know his journey that he has had as a cricketer and then as a coach. Let me introduce him to you, because we love our numbers, we love our data, we love our averages, the runs that he scored. 136 one-day international matches for India. One test match along with 137 first-class matches at an average of 46.03, 22 centuries in the first-class arena. And after he finished his cricket, went on to coach, and today is a coach of great repute. All over the world, wherever franchisee cricket is played, we call him as the man with the Midas touch, because wherever he goes, it is there that there will be a title that he'll have. If you look at the Indian Premier League, the Mumbai Indians, 4 titles. You look at the Barbados Tridents in Caribbean Premier League, whether it's Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, USA, you'll have him always there guiding, mentoring youngsters and the seniors all together, because that's the way he is as a human being. Very approachable, very humble, soft-spoken. Let's welcome to our episode number 17, Dressing Room Ki Baatein, former India All Mr. Robin Singh. Robin sir, good evening and welcome to Dressing Room Ki Baatein.
Thank you very much. I don't know if can you see me.
Yes, pleasure to meet you and to have you on the show today. Hope all well there in Chennai in these times, Robin sir.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, we managed pretty well during this period, but I'm pretty safe. I think we've managed to stay safe. Try and follow the rules. These are the norms today, and if you're someone who follows rules, then it's pretty simple. If you're someone who don't, then it becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Oh yes, absolutely. Somebody who follows rules, and that's what we'll discuss with Robin Singh today, the journey that he has had as a cricketer and then into the coaching arena. Robin sir, if you could share your early days, with the roots in Trinidad, how was it growing up in your good old early days?
Yeah, Trinidad was, I would say, quite different to India. So you can you can break it down into many parts. But the initial years is where I grew up in the West Indies, and we played all sorts of sports, not just cricket but football. In school we did cycling, we did athletics. So almost every sport we were involved with. So it was a pretty good sporting culture. It's not like people play sport looking at national honors. It was just something that we played because we liked doing as kids. The environment actually supported that, and we played a lot of sports with clubs, as we would say, these what so-called country clubs that were run by family members or friends and stuff. That's how we really grew up. And today it's something that people call bonding, but I think that's how we actually played and actually grew up as kids in the arena, right? But that's really what it was. Then just hang on a sec. Yeah, and from then onwards, it was something with school cricket. I started playing at school level at a very, very young age, at 7, which was a little bit of a scare. There was a gentleman one of the teachers who took me to play and said, "You have to play for the school." And it's like we had no idea. We were just playing for the school, and managed to do pretty well. Then we went to primary school. I always played with people who were much elder to me. So I was probably better than the kids at my age. So I was actually trusted in. I joined the journey with these bigger boys, wanting to be part of it, and in the thick of the action most of the times. Similarly with football. So that's how it started. Then we had a club side in our area where we played club cricket. So we used to play junior cricket, We used to play under 19 morning. We used to start Sunday morning, Saturday evening. Then you play for senior team. So we played a lot of cricket. We played school cricket. So roughly speaking, we had about 3 or 4 matches a week. As opposed to what people do today is they have a lot of coaching. So we played a lot more cricket actually. That's how we actually learned the game. Coaching was like secondary. You'd learn as you play. That was the general concept, and you'd feed off people, or the older people would actually come and teach you a few things or give you a few tips. And if anyone found that you're good enough to play, they'll try and help you get to the next level. That's where it was. Then, of course, you had general stuff, things like selection at under 15, under 13s. Um, you play in those tournaments, and I ended up playing for Trinidad at 15, the under 19 team. So I made the team pretty young, 15, 16. Went on to lead Trinidad side before I came to India for 3 or 4 years. And I also, during that period, I was involved with the national team. Also, I played for them. So I made the team pretty young. I was pretty early. I was 17. I was with in the national team as well. So that was a pretty, that was the initial experience journey within the Caribbean. And then, of course, it transpired. And in India, it was a different story altogether.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Robin, so you said, you started young, you started early, the under 19 days at Trinidad. Trinidad always has a special place in your heart. There's a Robin Singh club, we believe there, the commission that you have always been there with, and also some big names of West Indian cricket who were a part of that Trinidad team. At that time, young boys, but then went on to become big names of West Indian cricket. If you could share some of those memories with our cricketers and our listeners, Robinson.
Yeah, actually, of course, while you were growing up, you look at people like, I would say, the people who I saw quite a lot as a kid were people like Ron Kanai, Sir Gary Sobers. They were actually sort of at the end of the career. Then you had Michael Holding, you had Malcolm Marshall, the late Malcolm Marshall. You had Savio Richards, Arvind Kalicharan, Bobby Pinesh, Desmond Haynes, Clive Lloyd, the works, and then you had all the fast bowlers involved. That was the era just before the era that we played. So I would say it was about a 10-year period. And then in between that, you had a lot of other cricketers who actually could have made it but never made it because the team was so good. As you know, that was the era where they dominated the sport. They probably could have made 3 teams, to be honest. They were so good. And so we actually learned from that era. So it really helped because the cricket was like extremely tough. It was very competitive. It was ruthless, to say the least. Most of these guys would play in England. You would follow the careers as young kid. Teams like Warwickshire. I remember I used to follow many of the players in English county cricket. After which, there were a lot of cricketers who played with me. So, and who were elder to me as well. So you have people like Larry Gomes, then you had Logie, then you had Paul Bacchus, Toujon. These were the guys who were the generation before us. And so we played with those guys as well. There were a lot of cricketers who probably over here in India people wouldn't know about, who were exceptionally good. And then, of course, in my area, you had people like Phil Simmons, Courtney Walsh, Patrick Patterson, Milton Small, David Williams. So the team that I grew up with, the under 19 team or the under 19 players in the Caribbean, Jimmy Adams, almost about 10 or 11 of them went on to play for West Indies. Yeah, so that was Roger Harper, just to name a few that I can recollect, at this point in time. But there were many, many guys. Phil Simmons today, he was my very close friend. We shared a lot of dressing room together. We played a lot. We played for the same team. We played for Trinidad team as well. You had a gentleman who was a really close friend of ours who died in a car crash. His name was Shivan Bragg. Not many people would have heard of him, but he was actually tipped to play for West Indies when we were playing, 18 or 19. He was one of those rare Chinaman googly bowlers as well. So, and I mean, to be tipped in those days when you had battery of fast bowlers, it was a real achievement itself. So he was a young spinner, passed away in a car crash. So that was a bit of a tragedy for us growing up. But I had a lot of fun playing youth cricket in the West Indies. I mean, it's great fun. And fortunately, I don't know. I mean, there's something that happened over the years. Even when I came to India and I played for Tamil Nadu, we had so many left-handers in our team. And similarly, in the Trinidad team, in the first six, you probably had five guys who were left-handed. Similarly with what happened in the West Indies. But
oh, yes. So fascinating to listen to these stories and the big names that you said, Phil Simmons, Jimmy Adams, and now Phil Simmons is the captain, the coach of the West Indian team. So from the Caribbean islands, you moved to India in 1984. And then at the Madras University, you played a lot of club cricket, a lot of college cricket. If you could just tell us the experience that you had. You moved from Trinidad and then coming to Chennai, a completely different place here. How was it different from both country cultures in terms of the cultures and the sport as well?
Yeah, the move was not really a planned move. It was just that there was an opportunity to play. And there was a guy called Akbar Ibrahim who saw me play because there was a Hyderabad Blues team. So when I came here and decided to further my education here, that's where I ended up going to Madras University as well. So I took the opportunity because it was more of a trial opportunity to try and play cricket here for about 4 months. I would say professionally, it was just to get the experience. And I think I had to spend 1 year getting qualifying to play, as you would say, local cricket. I did start playing, but there was a club that objected. We had played a match against them, and we managed to win the game, and I did exceptionally well in that game. I used to play for a club called Madras Cricket Club, MCC.
MCC.
Yeah, and they used to take care of all the other aspects, like traveling, they pay some small stipend to play while I was studying and stuff like that. So things were pretty comfortable that way. I stayed with Akbar for a while at his residence. So it was pretty simple that way, but culturally a huge difference to the Caribbean, to the West Indies. So, I mean, that's where it really started. And then, of course, I think I really started playing club cricket in 1986 onwards. And then, of course, I made the Tamil Nadu side in 1987, 86, 87 season. And then onwards, and after that, the 87, 88 season, I managed to go to England, started playing in England after that. And for some reason, I was left out because, for many reasons, I don't want to go into it. But it didn't really make so much of a difference. And then I think in 88, 89 season is when Tamil Nadu won the Ranjit Trophy. That's where I actually literally made a mark in the sport here. But there was no aspirations to play for India, if I may say so. Because of course, no, it was just something that I would say it was coincidental. Because it's not like I came here to play for India thinking that I have to make this happen. No, it was not really like that. It so happened that during that period, I actually qualified to play for India because of studying. And then, of course, you could not work during that time. So you would play as a professional. So I think I had quite a few good friends there. There was another gentleman called Mr. Kumar Kalapa, who actually coaxed me into, him and a few other people coaxed me into applying for citizenship.
Okay.
So yeah, it was something that it was not planned. It just happened, and I was a bit hesitant to do it simply because I had no idea really whether I wanted to live in India or not. And I thought, okay, why not give it a shot? And it was a little bit of a risk, big risk, because the only thing is, I can get back at your Trinidad passport under those conditions I actually applied.
True.
And it's just something that took about 6 or 7 months or 8 months to get, which is pretty fast those days. It was very rare to get a citizenship that fast. And when I did get it, within 2 weeks, I got selected for this Indian camp, which happened in Chennai in '89. And from after which I played. I mean, I went to West Indies after that.
Oh yes, we'll come to that India debut. But before that, you were just mentioning about your Ranji Trophy at Tamil Nadu. That 88 season where Tamil Nadu won the Ranji Trophy. It was a dream season for you, Robin. So where in the semi-final you scored 152 versus Punjab, and in the finals 131 versus Railways, where Tamil Nadu scored 709 and beat their opponents by an innings in the final. Just tell us about that dream season that you had very early in your domestic cricket, but one of your finest seasons with the bat.
Yeah, I mean, when I first came to India, I used to be a combination of bowling quick and batting at number 6. Actually, it was in the West Indies, I used to do both. So I was really would bat at number 4, 5. In club cricket, I'd probably bat at 3. And that's where I actually preferred to bat. But when I came across here, it was I used to be much quicker when I was younger. And of course, you have to realize quite fast that over here it's not about being quick. And I think the focus in India those days was more about being a spin bowler, trying to understand the wickets, and probably get into the understand how you survive in the setup. Then, of course, my batting actually took an upward turn because I batted at 5 or 6 for Tamil Nadu. And I managed to do really well during that season. But I would say leading up to that, I think the 2 or 3 years I played for cricket in Chennai made a huge difference because they had a really good system. They had a really good league system. And we had some of the best cricketers playing in the league even from outside India or within India, sorry. And the system was like exceptionally good. It was run by corporates who ran it, who actually funded the whole scenario. They would give people jobs, just like I guess in Mumbai you would have people like Tata, Villas, and all these people, right?
The club and corporate cricket.
Yeah, that to me was the defining time in Indian cricket that really supported Indian cricket, and it was something that every game you play you would want to win. You didn't have a choice. The competition was so stiff at every level, and everything mattered. Like if you do well for your company, you would get a promotion, things like that. That actually
a lot of incentives.
A lot of incentives to perform. Similarly, if you do well, you get into a state team, or we had what you call Buchika over here. So those 3 years or 4 years, the team that I played for was led by Mr. Brajesh Patel.
Oh.
Right? And actually, he actually made a huge difference to the young players. We had a young side. He picked a very young side, and we had a lot of cricketers in that team who went on to play for Tamil Nadu State. And those were the 3 defining years in my cricket. I would say in development years in my cricket that made a huge difference with the way I structured my cricket over the years. Of course, you would go on to expand based on what you learn and your experiences and so forth, right? Then I ended up playing a lot of years in England. I played 10 years in England in off season. So it helped a lot. So mentally you got much stronger. So whenever I had time, I would go to England. So it gave me a good platform to play in different conditions as well. So I mean, combining both, and then of course later on I played. I mean, we probably would play. Chennai is pretty warm, right? So we probably have cricket almost 10, 11 months in a year over here. So we played all sorts of cricket. So as opposed to coaching, general coaching, as I would say. I mean, I'm not against it because I'm involved in the system today. But you have to. It is something that we did a lot, and understanding what you need to do. You have to genuinely stay fit to do well all the time. The conditions were pretty tough to play in those days. Played a lot of cricket on matting, which helped a lot, which you don't really see at the next level today. But as a youngster growing up, we played a lot of cricket on matting, even in the West Indies.
Okay.
So yeah, even in the West Indies, so the matting was what you call youth mat, where the ball would skid on. So it was pretty even bounce, unlike in Chennai where you had, wickets were like Boya mats where there was a lot of uneven bounce. So it helped a lot when you play on bouncy tracks. And it's something that I use a lot when I practice. Or when I wanted to play on tracks that had a little bit of bounce, I practiced a lot on matting wickets.
Oh yes, so fascinating to listen to this, where you're telling about the structure of club cricket. You played real tough competitive club cricket that helped you at the next level. So that was a great season that you had. The Tamil Nadu team had became the Ranjit Trophy champions, and then the debut came for you in one-day cricket. That too against the West Indies. And where did it come? At the Queen's Park Oval at Port of Spain. So we see a smile on your face, Robin, sir, when I just took that name off the venue. If you could share memories of playing that first one-day international match, a small boy growing up in Trinidad, a 7-year-old boy where you started cricket, then representing India versus the West Indies, and the venue, the Queen's Park Oval, Port of Spain.
Well, I think to be very frank, it was like an anticlimax. That's the way I looked at it.
Okay.
When I think back about that experience, my experience over there when I played the first match was more about the people around. There were so many people. There were so many people in your ear, all the time telling you what to do, how to do, etc. And new in the business, not really exposed to international cricket. So, but I remember the going out and playing. Of course, I didn't do too well, but the fact is that it was quite an overwhelming experience. It's something that you wouldn't really even dream of happening.
True, sir.
It was more like coming here and then going back and playing in your hometown. To be very frank, Queen's Park Oval has never been one of my favorite venues.
Oh,
right?
okay.
In terms of playing the game.
Playing, okay.
That way. I mean, of course, I played a lot of cricket there, but I had preferred venues to play. Even in Trinidad, there were other grounds that I preferred to play on. It was one of those places where, but at the same time, it's synonymous with cricket in the West Indies. That's where we saw all the test matches and all that. But it was quite an overwhelming experience. When I think back today, probably it was something that it's just a blur memory in my.
Oh yes, that India debut happened. You represented India at the Queen's Park Oval, Port of Spain, and then there was also a couple of Ranji Trophy seasons where you played really well. There was one Ranji Trophy match. There are a couple of more that we'll be talking with you, but one that specifically the 95-96 season where you bowled a dream spell. With the ball in hand, because we've been talking about your batting, Robin, sir, all this while, but your best figures in Ranji Trophy cricket was 7 for 54 against a Bombay side. That was Bombay that time, now Mumbai. 147 all out. And we once again can see a smile on your face, sir, Robin, sir. Your memories of that spell, 7 for 54 against a strong Bombay side. The quarterfinal match, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the moment you talk about cricket in India those days, it used to be Mumbai, right?
Bombay versus Mumbai.
Right? So it was like, if you do well against Bombay, it's like, okay, it's almost like a ticket to playing for West Indies, for India. Right? So it gave you an extra push or extra recognition, as you would say. And I always say that when you play cricket or you play any sport, you need to be recognized not in your state but outside your state. When people start talking about you outside, that's when you know you're making some headway. And people can talk about you in your hometown, right? But when people outside are talking about you, there is no influence involved. So that is when I played. For me, it was about making a mark not just in Chennai but outside Chennai. So wherever you played, whatever tournaments we played, these were some of the small things that I used to sort of get lifted in my career, because there was not too much with the media apart from a few newspapers that would report the sport. And we didn't have access to social media and stuff like that today. But saying that, I think that game was quite a special game. It's because I've always done pretty well against Mumbai. I think in almost all the games that I've played, whether it was for against West Zone, but I've had a pretty good run against them. Almost on most occasions, I would say if I'd played 10 times, probably 8 out of 10 times I've done well. So. But that was almost like a desperate situation where we didn't have a choice. It was not a great wicket. We also didn't get a very big score. The ball actually did quite a lot. It started keeping a bit low. I just managed to bowl well, a bit lucky as well. And we ended up winning the game. So I think that was the first time ever that we had beaten Mumbai, if I remember.
Okay.
On 13 occasions, if my memory serves me right? And then after which we played them again in Chennai, which again El Balaji and myself had a big hand to play in winning that game in Chennai as well, where we knocked out Mumbai again. And then, of course, there was another famous game when we played in the semi-finals in Mumbai. We lost by 5 runs in first innings when Sachin got the 100. Even I got 100 there. But that was probably the best game that I have played in Ranjit Trophy.
Oh yes, Robin. So you came up with that topic, so we'll go to that topic right away here. You said probably the best game that you have played. For our listeners to know what we're talking about, that semi-final 2000 was the year Ranji Trophy semi-final at the Wankhede Stadium. Just let me tell the scores to our listeners, who are listening, just to know what background it was at Wankhede Stadium. Tamil Nadu batting first scored 485, 485. In that, a partnership for the fifth wicket for 254 runs between Himang Badani and Robin Singh, our guest today. Robin Singh scored a fine 183 not out in 237 balls, 18 boundaries and 5 sixes with 376 minutes at the crease. So Tamil Nadu scored 485. Mumbai batting were 472 for 9 at one point of time with Abhi Kuruvilla out. Sachin Tendulkar was batting at the other end. Santosh Saxena was the last man. Still needed about 18 runs. And Mumbai managed to cross the line there with the first innings and, of course, the outright win. Mumbai scored 490 eventually. And Sachin Tendulkar scored a fine 233 not out. Your memories of that game, Robin. So if you could just take us down the memory lane exactly 20 years back from where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where, in Mumbai, every time we play, the toss becomes very crucial, especially in the first couple of hours in a 5-day game. And I think we lost the toss. I mean, I lost the toss there. I was leading the side. And we had a pretty strong side on paper. I mean, we had S. Ramesh, we had Gokul Krishnan and his brother Mahesh, who were good all around as well. You had Ashish Kapoor. A guy called Ruben Paul, who was a keeper, who was a good flamboyant player. You had S. Sharath. Just trying to recollect some of the other players we had. But we had a really strong side, strong batting side as well. Going up till number 8 or 9, most people could bat. And saying that we had S. Sriram, in that side as well. So we had a pretty strong side. Similarly with Mumbai. I think that we were, if I can remember, we were actually 4 down quite early before lunch. And then at the end of the day, we ended up with being around 400.
Yeah, 397 for 4 at the end of the first day.
Yeah, we put on almost 400. We put on a very big partnership in the last session where they had taken the new ball and we managed to get a lot of runs. I sort of used the heat to my advantage in that game because it was extremely warm in Bombay, if I remember.
About 37 degrees.
Humidity was pretty high. And managed to bat on. We were overnight, we were close to 400, as you said. And then the next day morning, I was trying to tell the guy who was batting with me, his name was Mahesh, to just give me the strike. Just don't do anything foolish. And he managed to. I had a game plan, but unfortunately, he sort of killed the game plan because I didn't get too much strike. And we managed to lose a lot of wickets as we lost six wickets quite fast.
And you were also off strike.
And I was off strike. So I couldn't really take away the game and make it get into a situation where we could dominate. But we were also in an excellent position when we started bowling. Where I think we had Mumbai 4 down, if I'm not mistaken, but not too many. And before that, Sachin got dropped on 20. And, there was a famous story there where one of the guys standing in slip. I don't want to. His name is I think Madan Gopal. They were talking about Sachin's bat is not coming very straight. And the next ball he dropped, and after that he's got 223 out. So, but I can tell you, it was one of the finest knocks I've ever seen in the sport. Because not just being part of it, but being an opponent and there was one particular shot, 2 shots I will tell you that I remember.
That towering 6.
The first one was I was actually on extra cover on the line, and I was trying to keep Sachin off strike or trying to stop him from hitting boundaries. And I had almost everyone on the line, and I think he struck the ball so hard. I was probably about the ball was hardly 5 or 7 meters away from me on the boundary. I didn't have a chance to get it.
Oh.
Honestly, and then there was another incident where I went up on and there were no rules in that. You can actually keep everybody on the boundary, right?
True.
You can tell the bowler to bowl a bounce, he can go over the head, and so Sachin could run. So you can hit the ball. And this guy decided to bowl a slow ball, and Sachin went him outside the stadium. So, I went up to him and asked him, I said, what are you trying? He said, no, I thought he'll miss hit the ball. I said, but he hit it outside the stadium.
but when you share the dressing room at Mumbai Indians, do you any times talk about this particular match, one of the greatest as far as Ranjit Trophy is concerned, in your own words?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this quite a few times, Sachin and me, and he himself, acknowledges it's probably, if not the best domestic game he's played. It was really, you had a big crowd in for Mumbai, and it was a semi-final, so you always get support here anyway. And I think the nice thing is they appreciate good cricket, doesn't matter.
True.
And it was one of the, it was fought almost to the end. Even though you got 5 runs lead, we lost the game because we were trying to win the game after that, right? But most people got dejected after we lost the lead. And they felt we couldn't win the game, and I was a little disappointed with the attitude because we still had almost 2 days to go, almost, and which I had told them we can put a score on the board and try and get them out. It's the last game, anything can happen, But I guess the attitude with most of the players, they were not there basically. Once we lost the lead, they literally had given up the game. And you can't really fight with players who mentally are gone, So it's a losing cause. But for saying that, I think we have spoken about this game over and over again many times. I've thought about it. I've thought about many games that I've played, but this is a real standout in terms of cricket matches. Not only in local cricket, but in terms of real cricket matches that I've played over the years, it's probably one of the standout games ever.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So nice to listen to these stories from the man who played that match and had such a big role to play in that match. When you were talking to you, Robin, so you spoke about the good old early days where you used to love to bat at number 3. If you look at international cricket, one knock that comes to mind, the Independence Cup final 1998, where India beat Pakistan versus Pakistan at Dhaka. You batted at number 3, along with Ganguly. You scored an 83 ball, 82 versus Sri Lanka. You scored your century in 102 balls versus Colombo. So you always love to bat at higher up the order?
Yeah, I've always. It's something that I did a lot at my early age in cricket. It's just that what happened was over the years you had to fit into a slot when you played the local cricket. So you ended up, trying to play in a position where you don't really have a choice. But so I ended up batting. I used to love to bat at 3, and then I did a lot of batting at 3 club cricket in Chennai as well. When I used to play for MRF, and then similarly when I played zone cricket, I would bat at number 4 when Azhar led the South Zone team.
South Zone,
yeah, because most of the guys were playing for India already, so they would allow us to bat a bit higher for us to get opportunities to bat. So and I did pretty well. I did exceptionally well even at that number. So for me, it was really about having an opportunity to bat higher up. Unfortunately, those opportunities came quite rarely when we played international cricket, barring a few. But actually, those positions were rare. But I had a few good opportunities there, and I did reasonably well there as well.
We were talking about number 3 position, but you always loved playing against Sri Lanka. Your century against Sri Lanka, your 2 5-wicket hauls, one at Guwahati, one at Taunton, that historic partnership between Dravid and Ganguly. Loved playing against Sri Lanka?
I think I love playing against most teams. To be honest, I enjoyed playing against Australia because I found I enjoyed playing against Australia. They were one team that were extremely competitive. It's sort of for some reason or the other, I happened to sort of lift my game quite a lot when I played against them. We played a lot against Sri Lanka and Pakistan in the late 90s, right? But saying that, I used to enjoy playing against Australia because they were tough, and they would acknowledge if you do well against them. So that, to me, that was like most satisfying. Of course, India-Pakistan games were one of the high points playing for India, and it's not just India-Pakistan games. I think playing for India was generally a high point. for me, was really about playing for India and doing well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We spoke about the batting, your bowling. But one thing, in that era of the late 90s, you, Mohammad Azharuddin, Ajay Jadeja, the fielding was top class. And you were that kind of fielder at covers, a cover point, where fielding used to be really brilliant. So you really loved your fielding, worked hard at your fielding during your early days, Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, fielding is something that I think we grew up doing at a young age in club cricket. Um, in the club sides that I played cricket, you couldn't really be a bad fielder. It was not accepted. So everyone would. But I'm talking about in the West Indies. It's not just about here. So and then of course being fit made a big difference. You didn't really have to work at it too much. So you would try and do a lot of things, and you can try different things. When you're fit, you can try all sorts of things. You're not afraid to try or dive or get injured. We used to use the beach a lot in the West Indies to practice, to field. We use the water a lot so you won't get injured when you dive. Use the sand. So we found ways of doing things. And when you play football, for example, it's a contact sport. So you know how to avoid getting injured. So all these things sort of helped over the years. You cycle, it helps your speed, develops your leg muscles as well, and so forth. And then of course we practice a lot. I mean, I never used to like practicing with anyone when I did fielding. If I wanted to do fielding, I would like to feel a lot on my own, so that at my intensity. So it was about practicing with a lot of intensity and putting yourself under pressure. So I had a simple philosophy when I practice. Number one is you should not misfeel any ball. Number two, at the end of the season, you should know how many catches you have dropped, whether it's practice or when you play. And at the end of your career, you should know how many catches you have dropped.
Yeah, true.
So to me, doing those things were an embarrassment. So, and then of course, when you go to practice, whatever you do, if you feel you have to do it with some intensity, otherwise there's no point doing it. It doesn't really make sense.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's what I think our cricketers should learn from cricketers like you, where, that's the way you grow up, and that's how fielding made such an integral part of your playing days. Going ahead, after you finished playing cricket, you took up another role of coaching, just to tell a few credentials. The India under-19 coach that you were there. Hong Kong qualified for the Asia Cup 2004 with you as the coach. You coached the India A team. You're the fielding coach of Team India 2009. Your experiences there from the early days of coaching till you went on to coach the Indian team as the fielding coach. Your experiences as a player and then as a coach.
I think before I even get into coaching, I think as you keep playing the sport, right? And you keep playing, you keep learning from people who have more knowledge than you. You talk to experienced players, and you understand how they go about things. You watch people go about how they manage things, how they run things. And you get a gist of what it's all about. And one of the things that we did a lot when we were playing, we would actually work with a lot of other cricketers. So it's almost like coaching without coaching.
Oh,
and
yes.
You're learning on the job, literally speaking. And it was really a question of being able to transform what you have done and get involved in coaching. One of the biggest and most important things that I learned when I started playing was that you cannot think that you're a player. Most people who get into coaching, they start comparing themselves with people who are playing the sport.
Oh, wow. That's such a nice message.
And you have to actually segregate yourself as a player. You have to now start thinking like, okay, yes, you're a player, you use that to your advantage. So you know the moves, you can think like a player, but you have to also think outside the box. You can't think like a player. You have to think like somebody who's managing a team. You have to think personality. You have to think administratively. So many other things that you have to think about. So, and that is something that I learned very fast over the years. Even though you want to physically be involved, and you need to be physically involved, because most people today like to be hands-on. A lot of people claim to understand when they use analytics and data and information today, but actually the reality of this, when you go to the ground, most of them really don't know the finer points of the game. They don't know the technicalities of the game. And it is something that, but I actually kept learning more and more. You talk to, and the initial years when I started coaching on the 19 team, right? I probably thought a lot more like a player, even though we won, right? And we had good sides, from that under 19 team that I was involved with in 2003. You had almost 10 or 12 guys who went on to play for India. Some guys are still playing today. Shekhar Dhawan, you had Ambati Raidu, you had Suresh Raina, you had Dinesh Karthik, you had R.P. Singh, Irfan Pathan, V.R.B. Singh, Piyush Chawla, you name it. There were many, many guys. And then later on, we had involved with A team, you had Rohit, you had Gautam, you had Pujara, you had Jadeja, and so many others. But saying that, they were all exceptional players, which we were fortunate to have. But you have to be able to understand that it's their time, it's not your time.
True,
right?
so true.
You have to actually get away from the fact that you were also a player and understand that you have to try and help people along the way, as opposed to thinking that I am better. Many, many cricketers I've seen who have been involved in coaching, all they talk about is in my time, my era, which is fine to know, but you need to put it past you. It's gone.
Times have changed. Times will change.
Yeah. So to me, that is something that I learned very fast. Of course, players get motivated. They look up to you. So you have to be able to help motivate them, whether it be fitness, whether it be training, whether you spend extra time with them, whether you give them the confidence. So every small thing matters to build a side. So it's about really building a team, being unbiased in your approach, extremely unbiased. There are many people who are very biased. You have to be extremely unbiased because you have to treat everyone equally. And that is something that the culture that we grew up in, I grew up in the West Indies, you have to be able to me personally, approach things that way. If you're unbiased, you can easily get the respect. And importantly, you need to gain the respect of people who are around you who are playing the sport. If you can get that, then you can easily get the best out of people. They would do anything for you. You can go up to them, you can challenge them, you can talk to them, you can criticize them. In the right timing of it is important. Most people don't like to be criticized, right? But people call it constructive criticism. Sometimes I feel it's an overrated word because it is still a criticism, right? It's just that people put it mildly. But if I have a good rapport with you and I tell you something, you need to be able to understand that it's a criticism that's only good for you, right? So, because ultimately at the end of the day, the players end up going through the journey. But as a coach, it's about having a result in your book to be known as a good coach. It's no more about the process. A lot of foreign coaches that I have come across, they talk a lot about process, right? Fine, process is good, but you also in the situation in India today, it's about results, not just about process. People want to see results at the end of the day, whether it's the fan, whether it's the administrators, etc., etc. So the pressure to win a tournament, actually, either you have it or you have to be pushed, or you have to ensure that you have to. It's not about putting yourself under pressure, but trusting yourself that you can win a tournament. So to me, if I take on a role, when I take on a role, or if a role is given to me, I only look at ultimately trying to win. It's not about trying to stay there, right? And that's how I played even when I played my game, my cricket. It was about trying to ensure that we can be part of a successful team and being a major contributor to that.
Oh yes, absolutely, Robin. So you used one word, part of a successful team. When we said that we are going to discuss with Robin Singh on this Sunday, there were so many Mumbai Indians fans, who said, okay, we want to listen to Robin Singh speak about Mumbai Indians. You joined them in 2010. Now it's almost the 10th year now, the IPL to be held in Dubai. 4 IPL titles, 2 Champion Leagues. Just tell us the secret of this success. Tell us something about the Mumbai Indians team, the Mumbai Indians camp, the Mumbai Indians coaching staff. Year after year, maybe a slow start to the season, but eventual champions that has happened. So just tell us about what happens in the coaching setup. What is the role that you play as a coach in such a superstar side full of champions?
Well, I think I've been here more than 10 years now. So the roles have changed to a large extent from when I started to where I am today. And it's more definitive now. But I think when I started, we always do a lot. It's not like your role is restricted to just one thing. When you have a team of 25, 30 players, you have to be involved constructively in almost all areas. You have to lend a helping hand. So there is no end to it, to helping, right? But I think what has been really good for me, I would say a lot of my coaching has been defined during my years with MI. The professionalism at which we work, the support that we get from the management, from the owners, is second to none. I have not come across such a professional organization. A lot of people, want to be part of the setup. So we have tried to create a culture where, as we said, we have been absolutely fair, unbiased. It's also about winning, and people have played big bucks. They have to perform. It's not about once you're paid, you have to perform. It's something that is you have to understand as a professional player if you want to think you're a professional, and we don't compromise. We are not there, and the way we approach things is that every year we go out there, we want to see a few players go on to play for India. It's not just about Mumbai Indians. You'll find a lot of players who are playing for MI. They have not just played for MI, but they have actually made their careers playing for India. So ultimately, if we can turn out 10 players who are in MI who can play for India, right? And we are an Indian squad. It's great for the franchise as well, and it's great for us because, of course, that means we are doing something right, right? So it's a contribution to cricket in the country, and that's the way we see it. Most people do not get the opportunity to coach India, but we have a great opportunity when we come together to actually try and use the intelligence or the knowledge from other players as well, because even they have they have ideas. We sit down, we talk to most of the guys. We talk, we see them in domestic cricket. So we scout a lot. We try and pick out the best talent available. We have a big team of people. There is no end. We have a lot of information. We have a lot of analytics data that feeds us with things that we want, and it's quite an open book for what we want to do. But as I said, it's not about one man. It's an entire team's process. It's been built over the years, and we keep strengthening that. We try to ensure that, you see, just to give you a small example, we won last year, but if you look at our team, there are quite a few changes in our team going forward this year. So it's not like people who are in the side, they cannot just be in the side. There is no way you can just be in that team. It is too good to just be in that team. You have to be a major contributor. You have to be somebody. If you're sitting on the bench, you're ready to play, as you would say, if someone is unfit. So it's almost like building two teams, right, within your squad itself. And that, the moment you have that attitude, there is no room for complacency. Whether it is coaches or trainers or players themselves, you get found out quite easily. When you're in a setup where you're winning and you want to win, and the management wants to win, and the support is there, and everything that is needed, they make every single effort, right? I must say that they make every single effort to make everyone comfortable, right? And it has a lot to do with the management, to be very frank, and the way we have set up things. So, hats off to the owners. This is Ambani from day one. I started working with her, and the way they go about things. And then, of course, Akash taking over today. And we have a lot of support from Nikhil Aswani, and there are a lot of people behind the scenes, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. The works, to say the least. Then, of course, you have the support staff. Today we have Zach, who is director of cricket. He knows his stuff exceptionally well. You have Mahela, who's done well. He's coming in done exceptionally well. She is born in the setup. So everyone comes with a different experience, and you have to feed off them. You have to learn off them or from them. So it's every year you would learn something new. There are a lot of new players, there are a lot of young players who come up with different challenges for coaches, and you have to be able to manage that. The good thing is when you have an organized setup, it's not that difficult to take it to the next level.
Oh, yes, organized setup. That is what we get to know from Robin Singh. So before we close the interview, this year, the IPL moving to the United Arab Emirates, and UAE better than anybody else. You're the director of cricket operations there. Looking forward to it at a place where you spend a lot of time, Dubai?
Yeah, well, I'm not. I mean, now I spend time,
Yes,
yeah, but
yes,
yeah, we did have a great experience there the last time we played. So
yes.
so definitely we're looking to turn that around. I have a better idea of the facilities and the environment, so that will help, at least from my perspective. I think. I mean, whatever knowledge I can hand out, or we can give out to the team, that should make some difference. And there, yeah, it's see, winning back-to-back tournaments is something that's quite tough in this format. So that to me that is a challenge that I would like to take up personally, and I think the whole management would want to do that. So it is something that we want to try and see if we can emulate or achieve this year. So it'll be great if we can do that and make it title number 5.
Oh yes, absolutely. We wish you and the Mumbai Indians team all the luck to win title number 5. But before we let you go, Robin sir, we have the Divyang cricketers team. All India Cricket Association for the Physically Challenged are organizing these interactions with the international cricketers like you on every Sunday. There's a coaching camp that we have online for Cricket Academy for Divyang. They're the world champions, the current world champions of Physically Disability World Series. So a motivational message that you as a former India cricketer and now part of the coaching setup at Mumbai Indians would like to give to our Divyang cricketers as an inspiration and as a motivation. Also, they're completing 1-year anniversary of winning the World Cup last year.
I mean, if before I go into that, I say that there are quite a few people I want to thank for the help over the years, and my friend Vivek Devlani, who is the president of Kajamkana. He's been one of the loan supporters to me in Mumbai. So it's somebody I want to recognize really well over the years. I think for a long time, and he's been an outstanding friend to me and my family, and many others that I know. And it's nice of him to even put me on this platform. And to the people who are playing the sport, and I think it's just something out of the ordinary. I myself cannot imagine if people who have issues, right? I wouldn't say issues, but who don't have the same, what do I say? I mean,
Differently abled.
yeah. I mean, it's. I have been involved a little bit with blind cricket before, right? And I've seen, and it just amazes me to see the enthusiasm at which they play the sport, and how much they actually enjoy playing the sport, and without overthinking. It's the fun aspect of it, which is something that when you go there, I think rather than me giving a motivational speech, it's about looking at them and getting motivated from these people who play the sport, and to keep winning is even a bigger achievement as well. So hats off to them, and I wish them all the best, the organization, and I'm pretty sure they will go from strength to strength.
Oh, yes, they will go from strength to strength. Thank you so much to Mr. Robin Singh for such a wonderful session that he had, where he talked to us through his journey, right from his growing up days in Trinidad to now where he's an integral part of the coaching setup at Mumbai Indians, his journey as an India cricketer, and also wonderful messages that he gave to youngsters and also to coaches, where he said that this is their time as players. You should just be as facilitators. Thank you so much, Robin Singh, for those wonderful words. But before we let you go off, we'd like to invite an integral member, the co-member of the AICAPC team, Mrs. Kashmira Wadekar, to express her vote of thanks, and then we conclude the evening. Over to you, Kashmira.
Thank you, Robin sir, I should say for now. And it was really amazing listening to all your experiences, and especially when you spoke about even, people get complacent, and, there is just no chance, or there shouldn't be any room for complacency. You have to keep trying hard. And this is what we want to also tell our players after winning this World Cup. It is not, you can't just take it easy. Keep moving. There is going to be competition coming in. There are going to be other players coming in. So you just have to take from strength to strength. And of course, listening to all your experiences, it was really, and this is what actually builds their passion. They get more passionate about this sport, when they hear from you, see all of you all playing, and with such passion you all play this sport, is what builds them, it really. So hence we're glad, and we again thank you so much for being on the show. And I really hope that you will also come personally, also come and give them some advice when all this is over, and when they play in Bombay, Chennai, whenever. And thank you so much. And
Yeah,
of course,
sure.
thank you. And also, Mr. Devnani, thank you for joining us on the show, and for your support, for the support of Kajim as well. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kashmira Vadigal, for those words. Once again, a big thank you to Mr. Robin Singh. It was a pleasure talking to you, pleasure interacting with you, Robin sir. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to all our listeners as well for tuning in to our episode number 17 of Dressing Room Ki Baatein. Now we meet next weekend for our Saturday training show and with another international cricket